Ryan Clark is what some would consider a panda bear or a panderer, an individual who has created a career for himself on the basis of pandering to a specific audience with a message that he actually does not fully endorse or maybe even believe. Now, I can't say that he doesn't believe a lot of this woke foolishness and this race baiting that he does. Something says that this guy is convinced of a lot of this. But I do know without a shadow of a doubt that he also uses it in order to continue to profit off of this audience, whether it is monetarily or socially, right? To be socially accepted. The currency that it is within the quote unquote black community to be this advocate for the black woman. I'm a black man and I stand for my black queen or my black goddess. And, you know, as Jason Whitlock says, the worshiping of black women or the worshiping of, you know, the black mother or the divine feminine is greater than God himself. That sort of mentality is what leads to moments like this. Now, maybe most of y'all are caught up on the story, but for those who are not, let me go ahead and do so. There has been a recent situation of Caitlin Clark, who is the most popular WNBA player, which is not saying much because, I mean, if you bring in more than like 10 fans at a time, you're pretty much in the top 5 or 10% of WNBA players. But anyway, she's the greatest of all time so far as marketability, likability, and skill set. I believe she's actually the truth. She is her. She is her. So Caitlin Clark has a rival named Angel Reese, and Angel Reese is essentially a hater. Angel Reese does not like Caitlin Clark because Caitlin Clark is talented. She happens to be a straight white woman, which is a rarity in the WNBA, but she is also the best player on the court. Angel Reese doesn't like that because Angel Reese loves attention. So therefore, there's been a recent matchup between the two, who are college rivals, are now WNBA rivals. And essentially, there was a play where there was a hard foul on Caitlin's teammate, and then Angel Reese is then fouled by Caitlin Clark, right? It's like some get back for my teammate happens all the time. Now, imagine this. Last season, Caitlin Clark was pushed around, bullied. I mean, she was abused in essence, because a lot of these girls hated her for what she was, successful and white. Let's just be real about it. They didn't like the fact that she was white in a woke league, so they made her bow the knee, etc. So anyway, we now fast forward to this situation, and basically, Angel Reese's team was wiped out. They absolutely wiped the floor with those girls, and let's just say the audience was really into it. So there was now allegations of racism from the audience, Caitlin Clark's audience or her fans, which nobody can still quantify. But essentially the story is it was racism, and now the WNBA is doing an investigation into racism. You know, it wasn't enough when Caitlin was getting bullied because she's a white woman, and there were people speaking out quite earnestly about their dislike that this white woman's getting all this attention and should be for the black girls. But anyway, investigation leads to commentary in the atmosphere, in the ethers. And so you have individuals like the Ryan Clarks, who was on ESPN, as well as his own podcast talking about it. You have a guy like RG3, who is Heisman Trophy winning NFL. Some would say legend. Some would say he was overrated. But anyway, he is now a commentator. So RG3 makes some comments about the situation, saying that Angel is indeed jealous or a hater towards Caitlin Clark. Then our guy, that's definitely a guy as well, but wrong video. That's a guy. Y'all should see that video. Absolutely insane. But then our guy, Ryan Clark, makes his statements as a rebuttal. So I want to play this out before I get into the rest of the conversation. I know it took a while to catch you guys up, but here we are. I do want to dissect this, but I want to play this out, and then we let the whole thing out the bag. So let's get into it.
We moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate, because I think he also understands the hate of self.
These are comments made towards RG3 from Ryan Clark, mind you. Two black men.
Look at the play, which is all we can speak to as professionals, all we can speak to as analysts. Angel Reese pushed one of her teammates. Caitlin Clark had a hard foul, which is part of basketball. I feel like it was assessed correctly. And Angel Reese's reaction is the sort of reaction you get in a situation when you feel like you took an intentionally hard foul. That's competitiveness. That's rivalry. That's not hate. And so now, though, when RG3 jumps on to the hate train or to the angry train, and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy, as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlin Clark's heroic or
she made herself the villain. If you know, you know.
Hero story.
Right.
The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country.
And action. Here we are. So, as I stated, Ryan Clark has made a career off of this sort of rhetoric, right? He leans heavily into the Black woman and the Black woman struggle. He fights on the plight of Black women more than anybody I've seen. And even, I guess, after being called out by Andrew Schultz on his own podcast, and Andrew essentially stating that, well, turns out that you guys had quite a few NFL players or, former athletes who have laid hands on women. And you didn't say anything about it, Ryan, on Black women. Where was the defense for Black women then? So even after that call out, he's still tripling down on this Black woman narrative. But I'm going to let him continue to cook until he indeed burns the entire village down. And then we're going to get into an expose of Ryan Clark himself. What would lead a man into this level of just full-blown race hustling? Is there anything he's trying to hide? Potentially? Maybe? Let's find out.
What young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. No, when you look at it, I think A'ja Wilson is the face of the league. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kobe Bean Bryant, LeBron James, Allen Iverson. These are all individuals who were at one time the face of the NBA. Every single one of them Black. Well, Larry Bird, Jerry West, the minority in a majority, quote unquote, white society. Does that say anything to you? A'ja Wilson may very well be the best in league, but guess what? Caitlin Clark is the most popular player because she has the most exciting brand of basketball. People want to watch her. People want to see 70-footers. They want to see her shooting from the logo. They don't want to see baby giraffe Angel Reese missing 17 layups and getting 18 rebounds off of her own damn misses. They don't want to see that. They want to see something exciting, which is a rarity in a league like the WNBA that is being subsidized by the NBA because they have never been able to break into the black by themselves. They've never been profitable. They've been subsidized. They've been paid for. It's a charity case. The NBA is throwing peanuts at them. Here, survive, survive, survive.
People love her so much. And so now if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on.
So now we get into it. Now we're going to get into it. Ooh, I'm hyped. Okay. So here's the thing. RG3 happens to be married to a white woman, and his last marriage was also with a white woman. RG3 also makes some wild statements, which is his business, but, making references like tall glass of milk and my milk and I'm a milkman and stuff like that, right? I just happen to think that stuff is funny. I don't have a problem when, somebody's talking about, ooh, my dark chocolate, my caramel, my whatever. But of course, it's not controversial then. It's only controversial now because it serves a narrative. Anyway, I digress. So there is this image right here of, let's see. This is an image of RG3 and his wife. Let me see. So here's an image of RG3 and his wife, right? Well, I'm sorry, guys. Wait. Do you got? Wait. Wait. Hold up. That guy is. Black one. I'm sorry, guys. No, that's that. There's an image of Ryan Clark and his firstborn daughter. That's an image of Ryan Clark and his firstborn daughter. Wow. Okay, well, I'm sure we got an image of RG3 and his wife here somewhere. Right here. Boom. Oh no, sorry, that's Ryan and his daughter. Yeah. Yeah, oh, it turns out that Ryan Clark's daughter is an extremely fair-skinned, blonde-haired, mixed race girl. Yeah, so Ryan Clark's first baby mother is a white woman. Imagine that. Now we wouldn't want that little piece of information circulating, would we? Would we, Ryan? Because this doesn't fit the narrative. I mean, to be fair, I think it only makes sense that you can speak on these things if you didn't procreate with a white woman. Now, I have no problem with interracial. I think it's a beautiful thing when we can all come together and just let that nonsense go. Love who loves you. And allegedly there was a white woman who was loving you and you were loving her and you loved her to the point of reproducing and having a beautiful child with this woman, this white woman. So that's dope, right? But I guess it's truly problematic when a guy like this, I have to have this image somewhere here. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I guess it's an issue when this guy, right, with his, and I quote him, his tall glass of milk. I guess it's a problem when he's speaking on a woman who happens to be black. And it wasn't even made to be necessarily a black issue. It was like, oh, angry black woman, angry black. No. They didn't even get into that. It wasn't about that. That wasn't even the conversation. The conversation was about hate, as you said. So he's trying to conflate it, as in Ryan Clark. He's trying to conflate this issue, saying, well, it's a matter of, it has to do with his misunderstanding or non-understanding of the black woman's plight. And, going back to Jason Whitlock, he had one of the best breakdowns of this thing. Shout out to Jason Whitlock. There's haters out there. I don't give a damn. He has a lot of great things to say. Some I don't stand on, but there's a lot that I do. And he was stating how, it's so interesting how, for a guy like Ryan Clark, everything is seen through the lens of the worship of black women, right? Because of feminism that's been pushed and perpetuated in our culture and our society, where the men are no longer leading, but instead they're being led by the emotions and sometimes the bitterness and resentment of the women in their lives. I mean, I've seen this countless times. The people who attack me most, who are black men, are the ones who have black women in their lives that they're basically they're slaves to, right? They're afraid of the wrath. They didn't vote in the best they didn't vote for their own highest good or their family's advancement, etc. They voted on the basis of their wife's emotions. That's a black woman and she has the black struggle, blah blah blah. And these guys just kind of go along with that, which is a very, very sad sight to see. And a lot of these guys were raised with single mothers, etc. And therefore they identify with that. They see wife as mother. That's why there's this thing of, if you date outside of your race as a black man, you hate your mother. Or if you criticize a woman who happens to be black, you hate your mother. If you see a criticism in a group, you hate your mother. No, I'm just not trying to marry my mother. You see, hopefully there's good values my mother had that I'm not looking for my mother. That is quite incestuous. That is, that's quite Freudian in its nature, right? That's very weird behavior. You hate your mama. No, I'm not trying to marry my mother actually, but, thanks for asking. So, there's that is interplaying as far as his own relationship with his own wife, but also his relationship with, I think, with guilt or shame, in essence, not even guilt, but shame, a belief that man, this is a stain on me. It doesn't make me black enough. Maybe he actually has a greater attraction to white women. I've seen this a lot with brothers who might even say something about me and my relationship. I happen to be with somebody who is of mixed race, quote unquote, mixed ethnicity. It's not race. We're human race. And, you know, obviously the backlash is, well, of course, that's why you a sellout, blah, blah, blah. She's controlling you, etc. They can't see that this is just a person that I happen to love and they happen to be what they are. And what? But of course, the African side is never acknowledged because that doesn't feed their agenda, right? They don't look at her African heritage. But she's light skinned, but if you see somebody with a drop of black blood or African blood and they're pandering, they're claimed as black. It's hilarious. It's quite a fascinating phenomenon. And Ryan Clark is a part of that. He feels, I believe, that's my perspective, there's a sense of shame that he has, where he believes he has to compensate and overcompensate and explain himself and show himself to be down with the cause. I'm down with the cause, brother. I'm down with the cause. You know, some of these dudes, they do it for the draws, but he does it for the cause. Some do it for the draws, for the black access to black women and the, you know, liberal feminist woman. Yes, he stands with us. He's for us. All that type of garbage, the pander bear nonsense. With Ryan, I genuinely feel like it's about he has a love or an attraction, or had at some point, to a white woman, at least one, and he, you know, procreated and a child with that woman. So
what they're feeling, what black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back, amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with. When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. Well, and he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin.
So this is what gets me, is the guy who has, again, made an absolute career out of black women, as a black woman, black, now is trying to, he's trying to play the advocate for, we should not be looking to somebody's ethnicity and race. His wife is far more than her milk-colored skin.
Is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady. I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that. But it also leads to what black women deal with a lot from black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over black women by denigrating black women.
That happens both ways. Let's cut the nonsense. I heard that argument so many times. Well, we don't have a problem with black men being with other women who are not black as long as they ain't got to bring us down. Y'all do the exact same thing. Those black men ain't no good. That's why I got me a same ass shit. I think both of it is mostly corny. Some of it is justified, but it's mostly corny. But let's not, again, he gives a different type of leeway and pass for black women because it doesn't pay to protect men or black men. It doesn't. It's not a profitable venture in the same way pandering to the black woman or women or the feminist woman, right? The woman who is given over to the liberal mentality and this, you know, I am woman, hear me roar. If you sell to them, if you pander to them, and I know this, I used to make a lot of content about self-love, etc. Not because I was looking to pander. I thought they were actually understanding that I was talking about personal accountability and I was talking about taking responsibility. You get into these narcissistic relationships, look at yourself. Why do I have these patterns? I realized I was just feeding the beast. And that's why I was like, enough is enough. I have to give my message in a more direct way and stop sugarcoating any damn thing because I'm afraid of, you know, retaliation or the wrath of these individuals. But anyway, yeah, I was going to play the rest of this, but there's really not much else to it as far as this conversation goes. But again, Angel Reese is a troubled individual, a very insecure individual, and I can tell. Insecure doesn't just mean you're aesthetic. It may mean you feel that you're losing your position. You're not going to get enough, whatever it is, right? You feel a lack of security in something, some area of your life. So that is projected. And unfortunately, it's been projected onto Caitlin Clark as opposed to helping to prop her up, to rise the entire ship. They're basically trying to kind of drown her out. And they will lose potentially what could be their best opportunity to become something that people take serious. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there. Or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. But I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3, 6, 5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.